Mark Twain once wrote, "Do that which you fear, and the death of fear is certain." It's also been said, "Act boldly, and unseen powers will come to your aid." Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is being scared to death and doing it anyway. In our quest to be the best version of ourselves, courage is the iron skill of success. You will never be your best without courage. My guest today characterizes and epitomizes courage. She left China at the age of 20 to cross the ocean with nothing but $800 and the hope of achieving the American dream. Her courage and dedication fueled her journey through the business world over the next 20 years, gaining experience working in financial planning firms of all sizes before venturing out on her own. Today, using the extensive knowledge she has amassed on wealth management, investment strategies, and tax planning, she lives her dream as founder and president of Echo Wealth Management. She is the author of Own Your Future, One Woman's Story of Immigration and Financial Freedom. I've read the book, and you will love her book. She competes in Pro-Am ballroom dancing at the silver level, plays the piano, practices yoga, and is a voracious reader. She also enjoys traveling around the world with her 15-year-old daughter, Nina. They live in Plymouth, Minnesota with their petite Goldendoodle Luna. My friends, meet Echo Huang.
Good morning.
I love Minneapolis. And when I lived in Chicago, I got up to Minneapolis about every other week. We had an office on the West End over there in Wayzata. And so I've got a lot of great friends in Minneapolis, and there's been a lot of news about Minneapolis. Just give us an update. How are things in Minneapolis?
I think the riots have quieted down, and of course we can see it on TV, and there are still a lot of unrest, I would say, everywhere in other cities. But I think in Minneapolis, what is probably not reported is a lot of people are supporting the community. And for example, like raising funds to rebuild Lake Street. And so I just also want people to understand that, yes, what you see on TV was quite violent, of course. That's the issue we're dealing with. But I also want people to know that communities also come together and give support to this major issue. And in terms of weather, Wayzata is very near my home, and it's really, actually this week is probably the best summer we have. We rarely have 75 to 80 degree and sunny days for the entire week. So
when I used to come to Minneapolis, this would have been 3 winters ago, but I was spending a week at a time, twice a month, throughout good old Minneapolis winters. I've spent many a winter in Minneapolis. Good times.
Yeah, you know what? I have adapted to Minnesota climate, so now I can truly call myself a Minnesotan.
I love Minnesota. I love all the lakes. I love all the bike trails. A couple of my friends and I up there have been out on the trails. A couple other friends live on the lakes. Or everybody has a second home in a boat. I've never seen more boats than in Minneapolis and Minnesota.
I don't have a second home in a boat because of my other hobbies that I'm spending.
Well, but you're in financial planning, and so you would never own a boat. Everyone knows that the best 2 days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy the boat and the day they sell the boat. Right.
Yeah, maybe that's another reason why I just I can go on the boat, but I don't want to own one.
Well, the key is to just have friends who own boats.
Exactly.
And have friends who own cabins up on Gull Lake.
Yeah.
Put your money in other investments. Echo, I've been so excited to talk to you. I read your Kindle book. I just love your story. And when I thought about who can I get on and talk about courage, to me, you just characterize and exemplify courage. So take us back a few years. Take us back over the big pond to China and tell us your story and how you got here.
Yeah, I would love to. I think it's really good to start from where I was born and how I was raised. And my parents both were college educated and they were teachers, but they were assigned by the government to rural villages to teach. They were separated, and I think that was common actually. They send you to rural villages to teach without running water and with very unreliable electricity. So they lived and taught in two separate villages, and I was born, and then two younger sisters were born shortly, like within 3 years. And so I didn't actually live with my dad until I was 8 years old. And finally, my parents were able to move to the same place to teach in a bigger town. So it was really important for me to know how fortunate I was because of my parents' education. So growing up with very little, just imagine we didn't have many toys. And for me, the major entertainment was playing outdoor, climbing trees, and made candles on my own. And finally, when I was 12, my family made very important move. I give so much credit to my mother, who saw a great opportunity. Shenzhen was a small fishing village on the border of Hong Kong. So on the mainland China side, it was the first special economic zone. And former leader Deng Xiaoping decided that it was important for him to test the capitalism within this socialism. So just imagine that he decided to have special incentive, like tax incentive, special rules to attract foreign investments to Shenzhen, and copying what Hong Kong is doing pretty much across the border. So fast forward, Shenzhen became one of the richest cities in China. Initially, it was about 50,000 people in a fishing village. And when I was there, 12 years old to age 20, I witnessed the transformation in this city. And I think right now the population is probably 17 million to 18 million people. It's also called the Silicon Valley in China. So think about when my family moved to that city. My mom, I think it took her probably a year to a year and a half trying to persuade the leaders to let her, of course, later my dad, to move to this brand new city. And she succeeded because her major was Russian, even though she didn't teach any Russian students in southern part of China, but she had a unique skill that I believe at that point stood out. So for me, growing up in Shenzhen, I was able to witness the change in Shenzhen and also had exposure to outside of China, especially through watching Hong Kong TV using the antenna on the balcony. And I was able to listen to Hong Kong radio as well as a teenager. And so I think, as a teenager, my mom was my first role model. And I think the second role model for me was an author, a woman author. Her name was Echo Chan. So you could imagine I took her name. She wrote many books. She traveled to more than 50 countries on her own because she's from Taiwan. As a citizen in Taiwan, she was free to travel overseas, unlike me, as a citizen in mainland China, we didn't have much freedom to travel overseas. So by reading her book about her travel experiences in the US, in Europe, even living in Sahara Desert, her books completely opened my eyes to the outside world. So I started dreaming of my own adventures. Someday, maybe I would be able to travel the world. And I think it's important for me to point out very early on as a child, I was dreaming. I think I was dreaming a lot about the things that most people would probably say, well, there's no way you could do it. But I think when the opportunity came, well, before I go to the story of coming here, I want to let you guys know that I decided to go for a non-traditional route of education. Instead of going to senior high school at age 14, I decided to go to a school of business and economics, and that's a 3-year diploma in accounting. So I was able to obtain an accounting diploma when I was 17, because it would be very difficult for my parents to pay for 3 daughters' college education within 4 years. So as the oldest child, I always wanted to own my business someday, and extremely interested in finance and business. So I thought that would be a very quick route to my own independence. So I was able to get a very great job as an accountant for the Bank of China at age 17. I was making more money than my parents as teachers. And so that was one way for me to move out of my parents' apartment. And I had my own, actually, the bank provided housing to all employees. So I decided to study English at night after work, thinking that if I will be able to travel outside of China, I would speak English. So that was really important for me to, keep on going, even though I didn't know exactly when the opportunity will show up. But I think after 3 years, one day the opportunity came, because my uncle was a visiting scholar in chemistry for the University of Idaho in a little town called Moscow, Idaho, for 2 years. And he knew my dream of traveling the world. And he called me up one day and say, how about you apply to go to universities in China? Maybe I can help you temporarily. So that was really important opportunity for me not to miss. And I quit my job like practically immediately, because I need to study for the TOEFL exam, test of English as a foreign language. And that is the exam that's required for foreign students to study college courses in the US. So I had to make a decision, quit my job. I went to another city, Guangzhou, that is the capital city, to study English full time for about 3 to 4 months before taking the test, and passed. And a lot of people thought that it was not, I was reckless, because I had no passport, I had nothing, and I quit my job. But for me at that time, it was very clear for me, my position there as an accountant was not something long-term for me, and I really wanted to make a change. So I was very fortunate that my mom was able to find 2 sponsors outside of China to sponsor me. I didn't want to borrow money from them, but they truly helped me by saying they are willing to help me out on the financial, requirements for the university. So 9 months later, I was fortunate to receive a full-time student visa after standing in long lines at the U.S. Embassy. That day was probably one of my luckiest day in my life, because most people there that day, their applications were rejected, because they normally don't give Chinese students full-time student visa coming to the U.S. for undergraduate studies. And because I chose finance, well, as you could imagine, a lot of Americans study finance. So I think my passion for financial world, and I was able to convince the immigration officer that I would not be a burden to this society. And she finally said, welcome to America, and just stamp on my passport that day. And January 11th, 1992, I came to the US. I flew from Hong Kong to Seattle. I want to share this story where my mother gave me pretty much almost all her lifetime saving, because I was earning about $100 per month, and that was very high salary at that time. But after quitting my job to study English and also trying to buy airfare, like one-way airfare to get here, I really didn't have much money left after that. So $800 was all the money I had. And my mom was very sad. She was in tears at the train station in Shenzhen before I boarded the train to Hong Kong. And I comforted her and say, don't worry, you have given me a smart brain and courage to try new things. I actually don't remember that's what I said. It was many, many years later. My mom and my dad immigrated to the US because I sponsored them. A few years ago, I think 6 years ago, I sponsored them to come here. My mom reminded me, that's what I said when I was 20 years old. And I was like, oh, really? I said that? And she says that was what really helped her get through how many years of kind of worrying about me, because we didn't have internet at that time. And I had to write letters. It takes 2 weeks to get there and 2 weeks back. And I even used a Walkman. Remember the Walkman, like a cassette tape? I recorded what my life was like in the US and sent it back. And my mom kept all the letters, all the cassette tapes in a box. And so finally I came to the US. The first year was extremely hard. Even though I had the courage to quit my job. And I think I also planned meticulously in terms of, what I wanted to study. I want to finish finance. I want to have some work experience in the US. And my plan was go back to Hong Kong, because I knew Hong Kong would be returned to China in 1997. So that would be about 2 years after my graduation. So that was my original plan coming to the US, is to have experience studying overseas and also work overseas. And then I would like to return back to Hong Kong. That's next to Shenzhen. And of course, the first year was so difficult because my first class was macroeconomics. And I could hardly take notes in a big classroom. It was an auditorium of like 300 students. So I decided I had to read the chapter and using English and Chinese dictionary every night, finish reading the chapter before going to the class. So I was able to get A eventually. But there is another class, English literature. English literature, after 1 week, I could not read fast enough. After 1 week, I decided to drop English literature because I couldn't even read fast enough the modern English, not to mention the old English. So I changed that to geography. And so ultimately I did. Yeah, so 1 year went by. I was living with my uncle's family to save money. However, as a foreign student, I had to pay non-resident tuition, which is very expensive. So my total cost it was close to $10,000 if I include the room and board and tuition for 1 year at University of Idaho as a non-resident tuition student. So that couldn't work because there was no way I could borrow that much money. So I had to change my plan. Fortunately, I found out Minnesota State University system has a special program to attract foreign students to Minnesota to increase diversity. And there were 2 requirements. One is you need to maintain high GPA. And the second requirement is sign a contract with your university to introduce your own culture to the local communities. When I heard about those two requirements, I immediately applied to Winona State University in Minnesota. That's 2 hours south from the Twin Cities. And that's how I actually ended. I was accepted because my GPA was 4.0. And I love introducing my culture to the community anyway. I did like 12 times a year. The requirement was twice a year. I did like 12 times a year to just talk to college classrooms and middle school classrooms and elementary classrooms. And so that's how I ended up in Minnesota in the middle of the winter. Well, I should say March 1993. It was still freezing, even though it was March. And so that's how I ended up here. And then after school, I was able to find a job in the Twin Cities. And so I want to emphasize the major challenge for me before graduation. As a foreign student, I had only 1 year to find a job that the employer will sponsor me. So after graduation, 1 year is considered practical training to gain experience. But if I don't have a job, then within a year, I would have to go back to China. So I made a very major change as well before graduation. I think a year before graduation, I heard if you pass this, I think one professor told me, if you are able to pass CPA exam, you are practically guaranteed to have a job in the US. I still believe that is a true statement. So because the economy wasn't that good, I actually changed my major from finance to accounting. And then, of course, that helped me. Not only I landed a good job in the Twin Cities, I also passed a CPA later. So then later, I started working for KPMG, Pete Marwick, one of the largest, I think at that time, big 6 accounting firms in the world. So I started working as a tax CPA in downtown Minneapolis and serving many corporate executives and wealthy families as their senior tax specialist. So I started helping them with their tax planning. I prepared their tax returns, all kinds of tax returns like income tax return, gift tax return, and trust tax returns. And I just love the financial planning and stock option planning throughout the year. A lot more than the tax season, to be honest. So after 3 tax seasons, I have decided that it's probably not my long-term career path with KPMG because I just didn't like the tax season. I enjoy more like proactive planning than compliance work. And thank goodness I was able to meet people who are successful financial advisors. And I decided to change my career in 2000 to leave the conservative, secure occupation as a tax CPA for KPMG to be a financial advisor with another large firm, RSM McLeodry, in downtown Minneapolis. So I started working there as a financial advisor when the stock market was tanking. And that was a huge challenge because I was very young. I decided to take an exam, Certified Financial Planner exam, CFP designation, and I was able to pass that before age 30. So that helped me in terms of showing people that I'm committed to learning. And extremely young, and as a woman, I call myself triple minorities in financial services industry as a Asian woman and a new immigrant. And I was very conscious about my accent. Of course, today I still have Chinese accent, but I think over how many years now, I have built up my confidence in terms of how to explain things to people in a simple way so people understand what I'm trying to convey. But when I was 30 years old, trying to survive in financial services industry, and the stock market was crashing. Unlike the 90s, a lot of financial advisors in the 90s had, I think it was much easier for them to succeed, right? But when I got in, it was crashing for about 2 to 3 years. And I had to adapt so quickly to focus on what is most important in terms of building trusting relationship. So for many of my initial clients, I really had to learn quickly about managing their expectations, reading more books about behavioral finance and how to help people not to make emotional mistakes because they are biases. So for me, I had to learn a lot more about reading people's mind and showing empathy as I was doing this job. That is quite different than my previous career as a tax CPA. And another lesson I have learned during that time was, what can I do to help people since I do not control the stock market? What I have learned is, in order for people to make wise decisions, I need to help them understand their cash flow. I think this came from my background training as a CPA, simply because finance is very abstract concept for anyone, because that's why a lot of people don't want to talk about return, risk, volatility, standard deviation, is because in general, finance is a lot harder to understand for most people. But most people actually understand cash flow if you use the good software tool to show them what money is coming in and what money goes out and the time horizon. So I decided to offer financial planning for a fee. It's more common today, but it wasn't common at that time in 2000. So I was charging like $500 to do a financial plan. Now I can laugh now because that took me many, many hours to prepare the financial plan. I was just happy these people were willing to go through the process and then decide, okay, now I understand I have a cash flow plan. I understand the time horizon. And then they are much better prepared for the financial downturn. So that is where I think, cost. That's where I always want to tell people, if they ask me, like, Echo, what have you learned from these financial crises? Because I have gone, well, right now we are in the third one, right? First one was the 2000 and then 2008, 2009 financial crisis. Now is this pandemic and recession at the same time. So that is where I felt very important for me to convey. Financial planning is so important to build a trusting relationship. It's more long lasting. It's more important than selling any products, because the products can change. There are endless combinations to build a portfolio, but not going through the financial plan or understanding each client's priorities and goals would be missing a really big piece of their, financial picture.
Where did all this resilience come from? Because you had obstacle after obstacle. Where did you find that resilience to pivot, to change? I mean, I can't imagine you're living in Pocatello, Idaho, right? For the University of Idaho?
Yeah.
Okay, that's got to be a culture shock coming from China to Pokey.
Oh my. Yes.
And then you had to pivot, go up to Winona. You pivoted from CPA. You went through 3 huge market downturns. You've pivoted your business several times. In there, you've had a daughter who's now 15. I mean, where are you finding this resilience? Help our viewers and listeners understand what you tap into to have this resilience.
I think it's for me personally, maybe because of my upbringing, I I knew when I was growing up, opportunities sometimes are very few and you cannot squander them when they appear. So in terms of life guiding principles, I think I explained daring to dream for me is number one, because I had a big dream that I was not afraid to keep the big dream during difficult times. So I still believe that keep dreaming is important because you can visualize your dream even during difficult times. And setting goal is important. So as I look back in terms of my influence, the people who had influenced me, it's for me, I feel that even when I face setback, if I'm really frustrated, when I have really bad day, as we all know, we all have very bad days, I always first want to do something to calm myself down. So either if I'm angry or if I feel fearful, I have some tools in my toolbox for myself. I consider self-care because in the end, I must take care of myself and put myself in a really good place in terms of mindset. So what I normally do is I have a simple rule for myself. I do not allow myself to be down, like unproductive for more than 2 days. And for me, I feel like if I have to give myself a break, because it's just too devastating, it's too difficult, I can't really think clearly. I gave myself about 2 days, and I normally want to do something that I feel joyful. As I mentioned, some of the hobbies actually work for me. Remember ballroom dancing? I love music and I love sport, the combination of that is amazing. So for me, I want to do something that I enjoy every single week. And also another thing I want to make sure is when I am calm, then I can tell myself this is temporary situation. So no matter how difficult it is, I don't want to, I need to tell myself the positive message and say, this is a temporary situation based on all the experiences I had during my lifetime. And I have seen things change. So I can see that opportunities can come out of crisis. The Chinese word, in fact, for crisis is actually 危机. 危机, the first character, 危 is like danger. 危 is danger, but 机 is opportunity. So it's very interesting. The Chinese word for crisis is combination of the word danger and opportunity. So the way I kind of look at crisis, I would say, can I do now to turn it into an opportunity? Can I do something to put myself in a better situation that may involve being willing to ask for help? So another principle I always use is I value the wisdom of other people. That's why I admire authors so much. And finally, I decided to write a book because I have learned so much from people who, wrote books to share their wisdom. And so I want to make sure when I am in, let's say crisis, I need to think about what are the people I consider I respect as expert in the field. Can I make a connection with them? Can I even ask for assistance? Because sometimes it's a simple ask. If you don't ask, people don't know what you really need. So I always apply, of course, calm myself down. But very important is continue to look for opportunities and be willing to ask for help and always look around. If I could help other people, that's exactly what I would do as well. So it goes both ways.
All right. So now I want to learn this word. So teach us the word again.
危机.
Wei G?
Yes.
Like G-E? Wei G.
Wei is W-E-I.
Yeah, Wei.
G is J-I.
Oh, J-I, but G,
Yeah.
pronounced G. So
Wei, you call it
G.
Wei Ji.
Wei G.
Yeah.
Wei Ji. There, we learned some Chinese today. I've always loved this. I remember hearing this back in my 20s that the Chinese character for crisis is these two characters, danger and opportunity. So thank you for a little Chinese lesson today with Wei Ji. I will always remember Wei Ji. I like that. Now I can use AG.
Yeah,
I love what you're saying. I'm taking notes here, but staying focused on the dream, and you got to have a dream to make a dream come true. And you were staying focused on that dream. And even when you were being dissuaded or obstacles came, you found a way to get back to the dream.
yeah.
And that visualization, I just love that.
And may I just add a little more, because that sometimes the path is just not clear, right? How do you take advantage of opportunities when you don't even know what they are? So my example was, I have no clue when the opportunity would show up for me to get out of China. But I think being prepared is so important. So if I didn't study English for 3 years, I would not be able to seize the opportunity. So another really important guiding principle is seize opportunity and be prepared for that before they appear, right? Another thing is, when I say keep your dreams alive and also set goals, you need to set goals. You break it down so that you can kind of measure how you're doing. So I always focus on setting goals. And then I plan meticulously, meaning that even today in business life, I always believe that the firm needs to set goals. Each professional team member needs to set goals. And also another principle is be adaptable. Because remember how many times I had to pivot. So for example, I didn't love accounting. But with limited resources in college, changing my major from finance to accounting and be able to obtain a job 4 months before graduation, I positioned myself much better than other foreign students when I finished college. And then later, when I realized preparing tax returns was not my passion, because I still remember my dream was more about finance versus accounting. So even many years later, I still kind of look inside and I remember I was like, yeah, my dream was more about finance, not exactly accounting, but I was doing well in terms of, my age working for a big global firm. But I still want to share that experience, because even though financially I was doing well, I did not forget my ultimate dream. So then I was able to pivot to go back to follow my passion, even though the road was not a straight shot. It was not as simple as, being a tax CPA for a biggest firm, because you have no idea the path for a woman to go into personal financial planning was not clear path at all, even today, because there is only 23% of certified financial planner professionals are women 20 years ago. And the percentage, 23%, is still the same today. So you can imagine that it's very difficult for women actually see this as a viable career. And that's another reason why I wanted to write a book to share my journey, because I believe that if young women today can see this as a viable career path, they are more likely to even seek out and say, oh, I did not even think about this as, good career path. I want this book to be able to show people what I do on my, daily life to help people, and what obstacles I had to overcome to get here. So that's one important message it's my mission to help bridge the gender and race inequality. And, I would also say injustice. And so that is part of the reason I was writing the book last year. Yeah. So, cause I think I went through a lot, right? Dare to dream, be adaptable. Oh, respect education. I think it's very clear that a lot of people ask me, do you really need the 3 designations? I do want to share a little bit about why I did that, because the CPA, you already know, to be a tax CPA, you have to pass the CPA exam. So I did that very early on in my life. And then because when I changed my career, I had no wealthy friends. Okay. When I was 29 years old, I did not know any wealthy people. And I had to build a trust to ask people to give me lifetime savings to manage. So I felt, I want to make sure I am very qualified. So that's another reason that I studied for CFP exam that I think took about 2 years too, and passed that exam. And then in my 40s, this is the part a lot of people probably don't know about me. Um, I didn't need to look for a new job. I was a partner at another firm for a decade. And one day when I told my colleagues, I said, oh, I decided to sign up for the CFA exam. It was the level 1 because there are 3 levels. And minimum, you need to spend at least 3 years because you have to pass 3 levels before you can get the CFA charter, which is the gold standard for portfolio manager in the world. So my colleagues were very surprised because they are thinking, why do you want that in your 40s? And my reason is this. I was really curious about the deeper knowledge and skill required to build customized portfolios for each client. So I was reading a lot more books about investment, economics, statistics, and construction of portfolio. And then I thought, oh, since I was reading that many books anyway, why not just take the exam and maybe I would just get the designation? I think I didn't expect how many hours that required in order to pass the exam. So it was a lot more than 1,000 hours of study, even with my knowledge and skills. So today I can tell people that, since I am passionate about something and I'm curious about, investment management, and I respect education, I believe that knowledge is power. So when I have deeper knowledge, I'm able to use that knowledge over and over again. Imagine my next 20 some years when I help people. Um, it's the best return for the investment. So a few $1,000 investment, yes, over 1,000 hours of study, but I am using it over and over again for 20 to 30 years. So one guiding principle is to respect education, because when you're more prepared, you can turn the crisis into opportunity.
And I've heard it said before that luck is just when opportunity meets preparation. So I love what you're saying. And the time to be prepared is not when you need to be prepared, right? The time to have what you need is not when you need it. Hence the prefix pre.
Yes.
And that takes, to your point, visualization, having the dream, having confidence in yourself, having that resilience that we were talking about, respecting education, adaptability, being able to pivot. Your principles that you shared with us today are so appropriate, whether we were going through a pandemic or not, for just life. These are life lessons that I hope for us that are watching it, we'll share this with our families and our friends, because in a way, you've outlined a recipe for success. And I have a definition of success a little different from others. I think some would say, well, success is, maybe it's driving the big car or having the fancy house on the hill. For me, success is what Thomas Wolfe said. If a man has a talent and cannot use it, he has failed. If he has a talent and somehow uses part of it, he has partly succeeded. But if a man has a talent and somehow he learns to use the whole of it, he has gloriously succeeded in one of satisfaction few men or women ever know. I am just honored to meet you, because in my mind, you are an American success story. Not just because of what you've been able to accomplish, but who you are.
Oh,
So
thank you,
thank you
Ross.
for having the American dream and showing us that it's reality. And I would also say to some of our viewers and listeners, listening to your story, I hope it causes us to sit back and reflect a little bit and say, well, what the heck's our excuse? We didn't travel to a foreign land with $800 in our pocket, not speaking our native language, and be able to do what you've done professionally. And I know we didn't even really get into echo the person with your ballroom dancing and your traveling with Nina and your golden doodle Luna and all that good stuff that really makes you tick. But what an amazing journey you've been on. And I'm so glad you wrote your book. Tell us just a little bit more about your book, because I know it was on Kindle. Is it now in softcover?
Actually, the hardcover was released on June 9th.
Oh, very good.
You can definitely get that easily on Amazon. And I want to share, really importantly, the main purpose of writing the book, right?
Please.
The first purpose is to educate and inspire more people to start personal financial planning now, regardless how much money you have. Because by telling my story, if I only had $800, I think a lot more people had more than $800, right? And so wealth management can be complicated, but it doesn't have to be. So in this book, I want to educate people about the framework of financial planning from my perspective as a fiduciary financial advisor. So it's really important for people to understand you don't have to do it alone. You can look for the right people to partner with. And that's what I really want this book to be about, because I personally cannot help every single person. And I want to be able to share my knowledge and the financial planning framework with examples in each chapter. So people can certainly relate in retirement planning, investment planning, tax planning, charitable giving, even overcoming behavioral biases and long-term care planning. So you could just imagine, I want people to learn something from it and take action today, and don't put it off until like someday I will deal with it. Another major reason I said earlier is some books out there I think are either too simple and without enough depth, and some are too academic that people just won't pick up. So my goal is to write a book that first 2 chapters is about my personal journey. The remaining of the book is about wealth management for different ages of people, what they can do today to put themselves in a better situation. So I really want people to definitely check out my website. I have an author website that's ownyourfuture.guru. So as you can see, I want to be a guru to many people as much as I can. So from there, you can connect with me on social media, and I'm most active on LinkedIn. And I am on, obviously, Twitter and Instagram as well. And if you're interested in my firm, you can go to echowealthmanagement.com. And currently, my team and I manage more than $150 million for, I think, about 80 households. And many clients live across the country. A few even live overseas. And most of our clients are successful, busy professionals who want to partner with a team to simplify their financial life so that they can do what they're best at and enjoy life. And so that is my goal, is trying to utilize my gifts and talent and assemble a team, my team, and also help clients assemble a financial dream team that includes tax CPAs, attorneys, insurance agents, bankers. So I can be the financial quarterback to facilitate and guide my clients through their journey.
I love your passion.
Hey, thank you. We need to have a passion for something. I believe it. I mean, when we get up every day, for me, it's really important when I get up every day, I feel this is a great day because I never know who I will meet, right? I didn't know I would meet you, right? I mean, several months ago, I didn't know you. But it's just great to be able to get up, have a passion for life, knowing your own strengths and skills, and be able to live every day to the fullest. And of course, I'm not perfect. I have challenges every single day I need to face, but I still believe in my own dream, meaning that right now my dream probably has changed over the years because I can I can say I have realized my American dream. I own this company I started 5.5 years ago. I am able to see the major progress my clients have made. And also, when I'm able to provide employment opportunities to others in my business and bring on other people who share the same philosophy of like helping people be really ethical. And so it's really important for me to move forward. And I always want to set, you know, maybe different dreams and different goals. And I think at this moment, the way I look forward is I don't foresee myself like retiring. I help people achieve their financial independence day. So the way I see myself is I'm very close to the financial independence day that I don't have to work for money, but I want to do the work that is really give me purpose in life. So since I really enjoy helping people take the complexity out of wealth management, I believe I will remain in this profession for a long time, perhaps be mentor to many young people, especially women. So if any listeners out there would love to learn about this journey and how to get into it, I want to connect with those people because over time, I don't know where you are, could be another city or another country, but whatever I can do to help you connect to the right people, right organization, and I will be, that is kind of like what I'm dreaming someday is not really retiring, but maybe 10 to 15 years down the road, I reduce my work hours because I will have a much bigger team to serve people. Maybe write a second book. Maybe write a second book, in 15 years or something.
What's the one thing? What's the one thing that you can share with our viewers and our listeners today that sums up the echo principle that
What-
you can put your finger on what makes you you so dynamic, so passionate, so resilient, so courageous? What is it?
Wow. I think dare to dream if I have to pick one, because looking at all the principles, I think what is a little bit different about me is I had very big dreams even when I had no resources. So
Mm.
I believe that I have a very good imagination. I have a good imagination. Even when things even when things do not seem possible, I believe in myself. If I could imagine, that can be done. So it's really important that I don't let myself be limited by other people's expectations. And during my career, I had faced obstacles when I realized that I was not paid equally. And I voiced my opinion. I should, but I could not change people's expectation. I could not change people's mind because when people thought that if I made $200,000, I should be very grateful, even though I was underpaid compared to other, let's say male financial advisors.
Sure.
And so I want people to remember, don't limit yourself because of other people's expectation. And I always tell myself that, when I have difficult time and I continue to dare to dream. So if I have to leave you one thing is you do need to keep dreaming. Maybe the dream can change over time, but you need to hold on to it. I think over time you will see the power of having the dream and not to be limited by other people's limitation.
Wow. So well said. Dare to dream.
Yeah, dare to dream. That's
Where do you go from here? What's next in the next few years?
next few years. I'm looking for the right people to, I would say, to join my team. I am looking for the right people to help share the same principles, how I want to serve clients, because it's a fiduciary responsibility. We don't get paid commission. We are working for our clients for their best interest. So I really want to find the right people complement my skill set and share the vision. So over time, I can grow Echo Wealth Management. It can be owned by many other people. So at this moment, I'm the only owner. So within the next 3 to 5 years, I'm looking for finding the right people to partner with and, share the ownership and build a trust along the way, and go out to talk to more people like you, because that's how I can get to more people and educate them and inspire them to do personal financial planning now. So I would say, I think I am able to contribute more to the community, because when I'm in a situation where I don't have to worry about money every single day, we are able to do more volunteer work or charitable work. So I will continue to fund my, there is a scholarship at my university I set up. It's Echo Huang College of Business Scholarship. Every year I support one foreign student who studies in the School of Business, because I had such a difficult time paying my tuition. And so I really felt great every single year. I receive a letter and a picture of this winner. And, it's just really great to be able to hear their story, how my scholarship has helped them on their way to American dream.
You are very inspiring. So it's not something you need to look forward to be inspiring. Just who you are is very inspiring. Your story is inspiring. The principles you've shared with us today are very inspiring. I know I have been inspired, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners have been inspired as well today. So thank you very much for sharing your story of immigrating to America, having that American dream, having the courage to have that dream, and then being able to be adaptable, resilient, pivoting on all those different opportunities. What an amazing story. So just to remind our viewers and listeners, your personal website for more information is ownyourfuture.guru. And then for your wealth management business, it's echowealthmanagement.com. Echo Huang, thank you so much for joining us today on the program. We have been inspired, we've been educated, we've been motivated, and I know we'll all be better people because of you today. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for the great opportunity, Cos. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share my story, and you have a wonderful day.
You as well. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And just as a reminder, this will be zipped up, edited, and put over on coz.tv. That's coz.tv. So .tv is like .com. So coz.tv. And then next Wednesday, this will be released on the Coz Green audio experience. Remember to subscribe to the video and like and rate this on iTunes. Have a great day, and remember, and I don't even need to tell this to Echo, but I'm just reminding our viewers and listeners, keep smiling, keep shining brightly, because someone out there needs to be guided by your light. The light, like Echo, is sharing with the world. Go get them.